Hi guys, today's video is about a less common topic. It is definitely not one of those activities you would need to do in every process, but it's nevertheless powerful and time-saving when it applies. It is about list zipping, and I have first started using this when I was programming in Python. And that is not about archiving some data, that's a different type of zipping. Python is the fastest growing programming language right now. So chances are you probably already have some experience with it or are about to do so. I love Python for the level of programmer friendliness it offers and for the opportunities it offers to do a lot with just a few lines of code. And one of the functions I'm using quite often in Python is the zip function. It allows for very convenient parallel iteration, meaning in sync, through lists of dictionaries or other types of iterables. Let's say you have two lists of attributes of the same length and with the same order and would like to loop through them in the same time without going through the pain of building a class for that. For example, you have read two Excel columns from a report, say data about people that contain their height and weight. So the first item of the first list will contain the height of the first person, while the first element of the second list will contain his or her weight. The second element will contain the height and weight of the second person, and so on. In Python, you would write something like this: height, and then the list with the values, then weight and the corresponding values, and then for AB, in zip, height and weight, and then you can do your action. For example, just print the values out.
Hey guys, if you are new here, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so you won't miss out on future content. Thanks!
Now, I did not start with UiPath coming from .NET programming, so sometimes I still try Python stuff in UiPath, and sometimes I'm disappointed it does not work. But other times there are alternative solutions or just a different syntax. In the particular case of list zipping, there are good news. So let's have a look at the workflow. I'm first creating two lists, the list for height, and I have here a new list of integers, and I'm then creating 6 values. And I am initiating also a list for the weight, also integers with 6 values as well. I am then zipping them, and I have 2 examples for that. The first list is zipping the 2 lists that I've created, so list height and list weight. And I'm using here a lambda function where I'm basically just adding up the 2 integer values. And I'm creating a list out of that. And in the second example, I am basically converting the values to string and concatenating the 2 values, putting a space between them. And I'm making a list out of that. So basically, the list zipped list will contain also 6 values with the sum of the values in the first list and the second list, where the values are added up corresponding to their positions in the list. So in sync, let's say, it's taking the first element of the first list and the first element of the second list, adding them up, and so on. And the list zipped 2 will contain as well 6 values, but this time there will be string, and they will just show up basically the 2 values in the first 2 lists with a space between them. And at the end, I'm just looping through the zipped lists, the first one and the second one, and I'm displaying the sum and the values being summed up in the first list. So let's run this. And let's look at the output. We have here the first loop that displays the sum of the height and weight, and we have than the actual values being summed up. Now you might notice something interesting. If you look at the first value in the first zip list and the first value in the second zip list, you would notice they don't match. So 175 and 81 summed up is not 250. It's actually 256. So you can notice that the values are not, or basically the elements of the zip list are not in the same order necessarily as the original lists, although the summing up happens in sync. So it was taking the first element of the first list and adding it up to the first element of the second list. Yeah. So the actual summing up happens in sync on the two input lists, but as you would have this in a dictionary, the order of the elements is not relevant anymore in the resulting zipped list. So just keep this in mind. If the order is important, you can have an index list or just use a different method. So if you need to loop through two lists or enumerable objects in sync, you can keep zipping in mind. It's an elegant solution, and it's powerful and saves up a lot of coding space, making your workflows more readable and efficient. Thanks. See you next time.